She stepped onto the ranch driveway, her clothes torn and her shoes caked with dust. Hunger twisted in her stomach, and fear wrapped around her heart. She had traveled for days, looking for a job, anything to survive. The gates of the estate seemed massive and cold, and she hesitated. Then she saw the man who owned it. He was tall, broad, and quiet, with eyes that seemed to look straight through her. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. She swallowed hard and explained how she needed work, how her little brother was sick, and how she had nowhere else to go. He studied her for a long moment. Something in her desperation made him pause. Then, unexpectedly, he said, "I might have something for you, but it won't be easy." She followed him inside the massive house, her eyes widening at its size. There were rooms she couldn't imagine in her old neighborhood. She noticed the pictures on the walls. Two young girls, smiling, surrounded by luxury. Her stomach sank when she realized they weren't smiling at her yet. They didn't know her. The man said nothing about them yet, but she sensed they were part of the challenge ahead. The first task he gave her was simple but strange. She was to clean the girls' room. As she moved quietly, arranging toys and straightening books, she noticed that some of the toys were worn in a way that suggested loneliness. She realized these girls had been through hard times too, and a small part of her heart softened toward them. Later, the man brought her to the kitchen. "You'll also cook," he said, "and help me with the ranch work. You must be ready for anything." She nodded, trying not to show how overwhelmed she felt. As he walked away, she noticed a hidden corner of the yard, a small shed that looked abandoned. Curious, she peeked inside and found clues of a past no one talked about: old letters, photographs, and something that hinted the ranch held secrets deeper than just wealthy comfort. As she worked that first day, she realized the girls were watching her. They were quiet at first, cautious. One of them peeked from behind a curtain, then quickly ran when their father's voice called them. The girl in rags felt a pang of fear. Would they accept her? She knew that if she failed with these girls, she might lose this one chance at survival. That night, she lay on the small bed in the servants' quarters, exhausted. But sleep didn't come easily. She thought about the girls, the strange shed, and the man's intense gaze. Something told her this ranch was not just a job. It was a puzzle, full of danger and unexpected alliances. And as a shadow moved across the window, she realized she wasn't alone. Someone or something was watching. The next morning, she woke to the sound of the girls giggling outside her window. She rubbed her eyes and hurried to the kitchen, hoping to start the day without incident. But as soon as she stepped out, the youngest girl ran toward her, curiosity in her eyes, and then froze. The older girl lingered behind, watching carefully, unsure whether to trust this stranger in rags who had suddenly appeared in their lives. The man appeared, carrying a basket of tools for ranch work. "Start with the animals," he said, handing her a list. She nodded, trying to hide her nerves. The animals were larger and more unpredictable than anything she had seen. A stubborn horse refused to move, and a cow bolted when she approached. The rancher's eyes followed her, quiet and observing, but there was no instruction, no help. She realized quickly that if she failed here, she would fail entirely. While feeding the animals, she overheard the girls arguing in the house. Their voices were low but sharp. One of them mentioned a secret door she wasn't supposed to find. Her curiosity flared, but she knew it could be dangerous. The rancher had warned her the job wouldn't be easy, and she understood that discovering too much too soon might get her fired, or worse, put her in danger. At lunchtime, she tried to talk to the girls, offering a piece of bread. The youngest smiled shyly, but didn't speak. The older one crossed her arms and looked away. She realized trust would not come easily. And yet, something about the older girl's defiance stirred her protective instincts. She promised herself she would earn their confidence, even if it took weeks. Later, she was cleaning the main house when she stumbled upon a locked drawer in the study. Inside, she found a stack of letters, some torn, others stained. They hinted at a family tragedy no one discussed, involving a missing person and a threat that lingered like a shadow over the ranch. Her heart raced. Could this be why the girls acted so guarded? She put the letters back quickly, praying no one saw her. By evening, she was exhausted, but the man came to check her work. He watched silently as she fed the girls their dinner. When she looked up, he said, "You're doing better than I expected. But this isn't about chores. It's about them." His eyes held an intensity she didn't understand yet, and for a moment, she felt a spark of something unfamiliar. Trust? Or caution? She couldn't tell. That night, the girls left her a small gift, a ribbon and a hand-drawn picture of her in the house. She held it close, heart swelling with a mix of hope and fear. Outside, the wind rustled, and she caught a shadow moving in the yard again. Someone was watching the house, and she had a sinking feeling that her life, and the lives of the girls, was about to change. The next morning started tense. The girls refused to come to breakfast, whispering in the corner like she wasn't even there. She tried to speak gently, asking what was wrong, but the older girl shot back, "You don't know anything. Just leave us alone." Hurt stung her chest, but she swallowed it. She knew winning their trust would take patience, and patience was running thin. She followed them outside, hoping to help with chores, but every attempt was met with resistance. The younger girl tugged on her hand for a moment, then pulled away when the older girl shouted, "Stop bossing us around." Their fighting wasn't just typical sibling tension. Something deeper lingered. She realized they had been hurt before, and her presence, no matter how kind, was triggering old fears. During lunch, a misunderstanding almost erupted into disaster. She had made sandwiches for the girls, but the older one insisted they didn't like them. "You think you know what we want," the girl yelled, pushing the plate away. Frustration boiled inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I just want to help," she said softly. Her words barely landed. The older girl stormed off, slamming the door behind her. The rancher watched silently from a distance, his expression unreadable. Later, he pulled her aside. "They test you," he said. "They want to see if you'll leave. If you lose your temper, you lose them. But they aren't impossible. You have to learn to fight through it." She nodded, though the thought of constant conflict made her stomach ache. She was determined, though, to earn their trust no matter how long it took. In the afternoon, a small accident in the barn made things worse. She tried to help the girls feed the animals, but the older one accused her of breaking a tool. "You're useless," the girl shouted. The younger one cried, caught in the middle. She wanted to scream back, but instead she took a deep breath and offered to fix the tool herself. Slowly, carefully, she repaired it. The girls watched silently but didn't speak. By evening, she noticed subtle changes. The girls still fought and argued, but small gestures appeared, shy glances, brief moments of cooperation, leaving her gifts of flowers or drawings in secret. She understood that trust wouldn't come all at once. It would be a battle, one skirmish at a time. And she was ready to fight, for them, and for the fragile hope of belonging somewhere. That night, while checking the house for anything she might have missed, she discovered the same locked drawer in the study from before had been slightly moved. Someone else had been there. Panic surged. Was it the rancher? One of the girls? Or someone entirely different, with intentions she couldn't even imagine? She froze, heart pounding, knowing the calm before had been a lie. Danger was closer than she thought. The next morning, the tension was heavier than ever. The girls refused to speak to her, retreating to their rooms and whispering to each other. She tried again to make breakfast, placing the food on the table, but the older girl knocked it over in frustration. "You don't belong here," she shouted. The younger one cried quietly, caught between loyalty to her sister and curiosity about the woman in rags. She followed them outside, hoping to join them in feeding the animals, but every step felt like walking on eggshells. One small misstep, a horse nudging her hand, triggered an outburst from the older girl. "You don't know anything. Stay away." The words cut deeper than she expected. She wanted to respond angrily, but forced herself to remain calm. Every moment with them felt like a test she might fail. The rancher appeared unexpectedly, leaning against the barn doorway. He watched her quietly, eyes sharp and calculating. "They fight because they care," he said softly. They don't know how to show it. You have to learn their language, or you'll never reach them. She nodded but couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than he revealed. Sometimes, the way he looked at her seemed protective. Other times, almost unreadable, like he was hiding something. Midday brought a small disaster. The girls were playing near the pond, and the older one slipped, screaming as she fell into shallow water. She rushed to pull her out, but the girl pushed her away. I don't need you, she shouted. The younger one cried, unsure whom to trust. She knelt beside them, soaked and exhausted, and whispered, I just want to help. Please let me help. Slowly, the older girl allowed her to check her for injuries, but her eyes were filled with suspicion, not gratitude. While cleaning up afterward, she noticed footprints leading toward the shed she had peeked into before. The marks were fresh. Someone had been there again. Fear churned in her stomach. Was it the rancher checking on her, or someone watching from outside the property? She decided to investigate quietly the next day, knowing it could be dangerous, but feeling she had no choice. Evening came, and the girls were still cold and distant. She prepared their dinner quietly, leaving it on the table and stepping back. The older girl grabbed a fork but refused to look at her. The younger one glanced up, offering a small smile before quickly looking away. She understood then that trust could come in small gestures, even if grudgingly given. As she lay in her small room that night, exhaustion and worry kept her awake. She thought about the girls, the rancher, and the mysterious shed. Something felt off, like the ranch held secrets nobody wanted her to uncover. Then, outside her window, a shadow moved again. Her heart raced. This time, she was certain someone or something was watching. And tonight, they weren't going to wait quietly. She woke tired, her body aching from days of constant work and constant tension with the girls. Every step felt heavy. Every command felt sharp in her mind. At breakfast, the older girl spilled juice on purpose, glaring at her. Her patience snapped for a moment. Why are you so difficult? She muttered, louder than she intended. The girls froze, shocked. The older girl shouted back, You don't belong here. Go away. The younger one cried softly, torn between the two. She realized immediately that her frustration had made things worse. Her heart sank. She didn't want to be the enemy. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes for a moment, and whispered, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean that.
The girls looked at her, unsure what to make of her sudden calm. The morning dragged on with more mistakes. A cow bolted, a basket of eggs fell, and the girls criticized every attempt she made to help. At first, she reacted with irritation, snapping back at their accusations. But then she remembered the rancher's words, Patience is your strongest tool here. She swallowed her pride and started over slowly, fixing the mistakes carefully, explaining each step calmly. By afternoon, a small change began. The older girl grudgingly let her help with the chores, though with sharp instructions. The younger girl stayed close, silently observing, occasionally smiling when she handed her a tool. It was small, almost invisible, but it felt like a victory. She realized that patience wasn't just about staying calm, it was about proving she could be consistent, safe, and trustworthy. Later, the rancher came to check on them. He watched quietly as she guided the girls through feeding the animals. He didn't say anything, but the way he looked at her was different. There was respect there now. She realized that patience had not only begun to reach the girls, it had begun to reach him too. Even the smallest victories mattered. That evening, the older girl finally spoke first. Thanks for helping, she muttered, avoiding eye contact. The younger girl added quietly, We like it when you help. She smiled softly, exhaustion giving way to a quiet warmth in her chest. She was beginning to see that even the toughest hearts could soften with care and consistency. As night fell, she lay in her small room, reflecting on the day. The girls were still cautious, still testing her, but cracks were showing in their defenses. She knew the road ahead would be long, full of misunderstandings and setbacks, but she also knew she could handle it. Patience was winning battles where anger would have lost them all. Outside, the shadows of the ranch seemed less threatening now, She felt a growing sense of control over her place in this house. Morning came with the usual tension, but she felt stronger, more determined to stay calm no matter what the girls threw at her. The older girl refused to help in the garden, muttering under her breath about how she didn't need anyone. The younger one tried to mediate, offering small smiles and whispered encouragement. She reminded herself that patience meant staying steady even when provoked. While feeding the horses, one of them panicked and knocked over a bucket. She flinched, expecting the girls to scold her as before. But the older girl surprised her by stepping forward to help. "It's okay. Just steady him," she said curtly. Her heart lifted. Even small signs of cooperation were victories. She guided the horse carefully, letting the older girl's brief trust encourage her own confidence. At lunchtime, she tried a new approach. Instead of insisting the girls eat together, she prepared their favorite foods individually. The older girl sniffed suspiciously, but eventually took a bite. The younger one glanced at her with a shy smile. These small gestures began to chip away at the tension, showing her that patience and understanding could break through fear and anger. Later, she found the older girl crying quietly in the shed. Her heart clenched. "I'm here," she said softly, sitting nearby without asking questions. The girl flinched at first, but didn't leave. After a long silence, she whispered about a lost friend and how hard it was to trust anyone again. She listened without judgment, letting the girl pour out her fears. By the time the conversation ended, the older girl's body had relaxed slightly. The rancher watched from the porch, observing the slow transformation. When he approached, he spoke quietly. "You're learning fast. Patience is starting to make them feel safe. That's the hardest part." She nodded, realizing that this ranch wasn't just a place to work. It was a place of healing, both for the girls and maybe for herself. Evening brought more progress. The girls allowed her to read them a story before bed. The older girl still acted gruff at times, but she leaned closer than she had before. The younger one snuggled under a blanket beside her, looking up with trust in her eyes. She felt a rare warmth in her chest, a sign that the hardest battles were starting to pay off. As she lay in her small room, exhausted but satisfied, she thought about the shed, the letters, and the shadows she had seen before. Patience had helped her with the girls, but the ranch still held secrets. Someone or something was watching. She understood that while trust was slowly building inside the house, danger outside was still waiting, unseen but very real. Morning began quietly, but she knew it wouldn't last. The older girl immediately complained about chores, insisting she could do everything herself. The younger one tugged on her sleeve, whispering, "Please help me." She smiled softly and nodded, focusing on the smaller victories instead of the older girl's resistance. Patience was becoming her armor. While collecting water from the well, the older girl argued with her again, saying, "You don't even know how to do this right." Her frustration flared for a moment, but she remembered the progress they had made. She breathed deeply, showing calm instead of anger. Slowly, step by step, she guided the older girl through the task, letting her feel capable while still getting it done. By the end, the girl nodded quietly, a small but meaningful sign of respect. Back at the house, she discovered the younger girl had left a drawing of all three of them on the kitchen table. The older girl didn't comment, but she didn't remove it either. She realized patience was starting to work. The girls were slowly letting her into their world, even if grudgingly. Small gestures like this were milestones. In the afternoon, she returned to the shed to inspect it. She noticed a loose floorboard and lifted it carefully, revealing a small stash of old letters and photographs. Her heart raced. These items hinted at a story about the ranch's past, a secret that no one openly discussed. She replaced the board carefully and decided to investigate more, knowing it could be risky but sensing it might explain the girl's fears. Later, the older girl confronted her again, accusing her of snooping. "I know you were in there," she shouted. She admitted seeing the loose board but didn't reveal the contents. "I just wanted to make sure it was safe," she said calmly. The girl's anger softened slightly, a mix of fear and curiosity in her eyes. The younger one peeked out from behind her sister, watching silently. Evening brought small victories. The girls allowed her to help set the table and even accepted her guidance in preparing dinner. They still bickered occasionally, but she stayed patient, letting their interactions teach her how to communicate with them gently. Slowly, they were learning that she wasn't there to replace anyone. They could trust her to care. That night, as she lay in her small room, she reflected on the day. Patience had begun to build bridges, but the ranch's secrets were still looming. She thought about the shed, the letters, and the shadows outside. Someone was watching them, and she realized that the calm she felt inside the house didn't extend beyond its walls. The danger was real, and tomorrow might bring her first real test of trust and courage. The morning started with a small victory. The older girl hesitated, but eventually let her help braid her hair. The younger one watched silently, then shyly offered to help too. She smiled quietly, knowing that these small acts of cooperation were signs of trust. It wasn't complete yet, but it was progress. While doing chores, the older girl argued less, though occasional complaints still came. She reacted calmly every time, letting the girl's frustration pass without taking it personally. Slowly, the older girl began to listen when she gave instructions instead of immediately rejecting them. She realized that patience wasn't just about waiting. It was about showing consistency, reliability, and care. During lunchtime, the older girl spoke for the first time without anger. I don't like feeling left out, she admitted quietly. She nodded, understanding that her role wasn't just about chores or protection. It was about listening, understanding fears, and being patient as the girls opened up. The younger one smiled, quietly offering her a piece of her sandwich, a gesture of trust and acceptance. After lunch, curiosity drew her back to the shed. She carefully examined the letters and photographs she had seen before. Among them, she found a map of the property and notes about hidden areas, suggesting the ranch held secrets beyond what anyone had told her. Her heart raced. This could explain why the girls were so defensive, why the older girl pushed her away. She replaced the items carefully, knowing she would need to return for answers. In the afternoon, a small crisis tested her patience. The older girl became upset when a basket of laundry fell, scattering clothes everywhere. She yelled in frustration, "You ruin everything." Her instinct was to snap back, but instead she knelt, calmly gathered the clothes, and involved the girl in folding them. Slowly, the older girl's anger softened, and by the end, she even smiled faintly. Small, steady wins like this were teaching her the power of patience. The rancher appeared again, observing from the porch. He didn't speak at first, but when he finally did, he said, "You're changing them. You're learning what it takes to be someone they can trust. Keep going, but stay careful. This place has more to it than you see." His warning lingered in her mind. Patience had opened doors inside the house, but the outside world remained unpredictable. That night, as she lay in her small room, she reflected on the day. The girls had started to trust her in small ways, the hair braiding, shared meals, quiet gestures. But the shed and the letters reminded her that the ranch's past was still a mystery, and someone or something was watching. She felt tired but hopeful. Patience was beginning to win the battles inside the house, but tomorrow would test her resolve and courage in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The morning began differently. The older girl didn't argue as much. She let her help with chores without snapping. The younger one eagerly followed her lead, holding her hand for guidance. It was a small step, but for her, it felt like a breakthrough. She realized that persistence and patience were finally paying off. While gathering water, she noticed the girls whispering together, glancing at her cautiously. The older girl hesitated before speaking. We don't want anyone to find out about the shed," she admitted. She nodded gently, understanding that their defensiveness wasn't personal, it was fear. "I won't tell," she said softly. "I just want to help." The younger girl peeked up, a faint smile crossing her face. During breakfast, a minor misunderstanding almost erupted. The older girl thought she had taken a toy without asking. Anger flashed in her eyes. She could have reacted angrily, but instead, she stayed calm, explaining clearly what had happened. Slowly, The older girl's expression softened, and the younger one quietly passed her a piece of bread in apology. Patience had once again prevented disaster. In the afternoon, she returned to the shed when the girls weren't around. She examined the letters and photographs more carefully. One letter mentioned someone who had disappeared years ago and hinted at a hidden part of the property. Her curiosity grew, but she knew she had to be careful. If the girls discovered she was searching too aggressively, she could lose their trust. Later, the rancher appeared unexpectedly in the barn. He didn't speak at first, watching her carefully. "You're making progress," he said finally. "But don't forget, the ranch has eyes everywhere. Patience and caution must go hand in hand." His words made her pause. There was more danger here than she realized, and while trust inside the house was building, the outside world was still unpredictable. Evening brought a quiet victory. The girls allowed her to help prepare dinner without complaint. The older girl even asked a question about the stove, a first sign of genuine curiosity rather than suspicion. The younger girl leaned against her shoulder while setting the table. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time, she felt like she belonged, at least a little, in this house. That night, as she lay in her room, she reflected on the day. Patience had earned small victories, but the letters and shed still held mysteries. The rancher's warning echoed in her mind, and she knew someone or something was watching. Tomorrow might bring new challenges, tests of trust, threats from outside, or secrets revealed, but for the first time, she felt capable of facing them, armed with patience and growing connection. The morning started calm, a rare moment at the ranch. The older girl didn't argue at all, instead walking beside her as they fed the animals. The younger one held her hand tightly, smiling freely. She felt a warm sense of accomplishment. Months of patience, of staying calm through anger and misunderstandings, were finally paying off. As they worked, the rancher approached quietly. "You've done well," he said softly. "Not just with the chores with them. You've earned their trust completely." His eyes lingered on her, a mix of respect and something deeper. She felt her chest tighten, realizing how far they had all come together. The girls had opened their hearts, and so had he. Later, the older girl ran up to her with a hug, something she had never done before. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered. The younger one added, "We love you." Tears filled her eyes. Months of struggle, arguments, and fear had led to this moment, a home, a family, a sense of belonging she had never imagined. That evening, the rancher called her aside. "I've watched you. You've stayed patient when anyone else would have left. You've protected them, cared for them, and earned my trust." He paused, searching her eyes. I trust you completely. More than anyone." Her heart raced. The connection between them had been growing quietly, patiently, and now it was undeniable. Days later, under the big oak in the yard where the girls often played, the rancher took her hand. "I want us to be a real family," he said. "Will you marry me properly, not just for the girls, but for us?" Tears streamed down her face. She nodded, unable to speak, overwhelmed with love, relief, and hope. The girls cheered, jumping around them, excited for the family they had always longed for. The wedding was simple but beautiful. The girls walked with her down the aisle, smiling, laughing, finally free of fear and distrust. The rancher stood at the front, watching her with admiration and deep love. When they exchanged vows, it wasn't just a promise, it was a celebration of patience, resilience, trust, and the family they had built together. That night, as they returned home, the ranch was quiet. She looked at the girls and the man she had grown to love. Everything that had started with fear, anger, and misunderstanding had ended in trust, love, and a real family. She realized Patience had not just changed the girls' hearts, it had changed her life forever. The shadows outside no longer felt threatening. She was home,